low expectations. Low expectations, we'll be fine here. But I was going to talk a little bit, and this is actually my third trip here. I think we started working with the university maybe 5 years ago. And this is my third trip here, so haven't got a parking ticket yet. We'll see if my luck continues. But a little about myself is, I started in 1992, worked with a company called Convisor Duffy, who trains students for the CPA exam. And Convisor Duffy was bought out by Becker, and I worked for the Becker program for about 6 years. And then a group of us left Becker, and we went to CPXL about 5 years ago and basically developed what's called the CPXL program. And so I know I've talked to a lot of students over the years, so we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. One topic that students like to hear about a little bit is about just talking about your accounting career and the path that your accounting career can take. Part of your accounting career is the CPA exam, so we'll touch on that. Have you had other speakers come talk about the CPA exam? A little bit? Okay. I don't have to get into a lot of detail, but we'll touch a little bit how the exam works. You have a brochure in front of you which kind of talks a little bit about the partnership that UTB and CPXL entered into about 5 years ago, and we'll talk about how that works. And then there's a card out there, a little index card. You don't have to. If you want to put your name and email address on, at the end of this, we'll do a drawing. Whoever we pull out will win a free CPXL course. If you want to do that, just your name and email address. You don't have to fill out all the other stuff off there. So, with that, is that, yeah, now we're racing for the cards. Everybody here an accounting major? Okay, good. Most, all right, great. A lot of times I go and talk to students who just started their business degree and haven't determined what they want to be, and I try to convince everybody to be an accountant. And the reason is, I actually pulled this off the AICPA website. Not that there's earth-shattering information down here, but I pulled this off the AICPA website. And these were just different jobs they had listed, different titles for jobs. They actually had about 13 more on there, and I just grabbed whatever would fit somewhat comfortably on one slide. And a lot of different things you can do with your accounting major. And talking to a lot of students over the years, there's this idea that when you graduate, you need to work in public accounting. And if you have an opportunity to work in public accounting, great, but public accounting isn't necessarily the end-all, be-all of your accounting degree. And if you have an opportunity to work in public accounting, great, do it, take advantage of it. It's great to put on your resume, great experience, but there's a lot of other things you can do with your accounting degree. When you think about it, think about every company in the United States that has at least 15 employees. If you think about every company in the United States with at least 15 employees, that's a company that has an accountant working for them. Can you say that about any other majors at their school? No. All the companies probably one time or another are hiring lawyers, but usually do that with outside counsel. But every company in the United States has an accountant working for them. So as a graduate from here, you're going to have certain opportunities when you leave school, and certain opportunities will open up as you get older and you start working in industry. But the students I've talked to over the years, the ones who are the most successful, are the ones that figure out how they can combine their interests with their accounting degree. So think about, what do you like to do when you're not at school? What do you like to do? Do you like to go shopping? Go work for Nordstrom's. Do you like the hotel restaurant industry? Go work for Ruth Chris. Go work for Marriott. You like sports? Go work for the San Jose Sharks. Figure out what you like to do and try to take your career in that path. And I'll guarantee that when you're working, you're going to be excited about what you're doing, and your career will prosper because you're excited and you like going to work every day. You know, a lot of people graduate to get into audit because they hate tax. That's why they get into audit. And they're out auditing a company that really doesn't inspire them. And they're getting the audit done, and they're getting their job, and they're getting their paycheck, and all it's great. But if you're not going to work excited about what you do, your career is just only going to go so far. Anybody know who Ted Phillips is? Ever heard the name Ted Phillips? Oh, you know Ted Phillips?
Chicago Bears.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I talk about him often, and you're the first person that's actually known who he was. Ted Phillips is now the CEO and president of the Chicago Bears. Back in, you have to maybe look online, back in about 1994, I'm guessing, he was a senior manager at Ernst & Young. Probably on the path to become partner, bright guy. He just quit Ernst & Young one day because he didn't like what he was doing, and he took a staff accounting job with Chicago Bears. Low-level accounting job. I knew him through a friend of a friend, and I heard that, and I thought, he's just crazy. What is he doing that for? And he went to work every day, he enjoyed what he's doing, and he's now the president and CEO of the Chicago Bears. You look at a lot of professional sports franchises, you won't find a lot of accounting majors that are running professional sports franchises. But here's a guy that worked hard, enjoyed what he was doing, and his career took off. So if you can find a way to combine your interests, I think you'll find that your career will take off much faster than if you just work at a job to work a job. Second thing, it's kind of low, maybe some of that, is the get certified. In the accounting industry, there is a hurdle out there called the CPA exam. As an accounting major, you either get over that hurdle or you don't. And when companies are hiring or promoting within the company, they're looking to find out who's certified and who's not. And everybody here, I assume, has just wonderful grade point averages, just excellent in school. Everybody here does. Some of you do, good for you. Some of you are just getting by, good for you. If you have a GPA, that's not going to really impress anybody. The quickest way to remove your GPA from your resume or for the interviewing process is get your CPA. Because once you pass the CPA exam, your college grade point average really doesn't matter anymore. Does your high school grade point average mean anything to you right now? No. You pass the CPA exam, your college grade point average doesn't matter because you've gotten over that hurdle. There's a lot of different certifications. You see CPA is the first one. That's the one that's recognized. That's the one you have to do. You have to get the CPA exam out of the way. Once you've done that and you're out working, well, there's other certifications you might want to get into. Certified Internal Auditor, Certified Managerial Accountant, Chartered Financial Analyst, Certified Fraud Examiner, and Certified Information Systems Analyst. You know, depending what you're doing, if you're working for the Los Angeles Police Department or you're working for the FBI because law enforcement is something that interests you, as an accountant you can do that. Of course, if you work for the FBI, even accountants have to wear guns. I found that out a couple years ago. Even the accountant wears a gun in the FBI. But if you're working for the FBI or the LAPD, maybe the Certified Fraud Examiner is something you want to take and get yourself certified. That's great, but you really need to pass the CPA exam. Okay, intimidating slide. Obviously, I can see you all scurrying to write all this information down, but this is called the CPA exam content and skills specification outline. It tells you everything that's tested on the exam. And the reason I show this to you is just simply, who here is graduating in May? Okay. Undergraduate or graduate school? Undergrad? Okay. For those of you who aren't graduating, or for those of you who are going to go back and get your 150 hours, which we'll talk about later to sit for the exam, you know, there's certain classes you take here in school that are required courses in accounting. Is governmental accounting a required course here? Elective course, okay. But it's not a required course. Well, if you're serious about passing the exam, and I should start by telling you that if you weren't familiar with the CPA exam, there's 4 parts. There's 4 individual exams. Just think of it as 4 separate exams. Auditing, business environment concepts, regulation, financial accounting reporting. Next time you're registering for classes, Google the CPA exam content specification outline, look at this information and determine, look at this, 25%, 24 to 24% of the financial accounting reporting section of the exam is financial accounting reporting. If you've never, 25% of financial accounting reporting section exam is government not-for-profit accounting. If you've never had governmental accounting before, it's going to be real difficult for you to pass that section of the exam. So if you're serious about getting over that hurdle and passing the exam, the next time you're choosing an elective, governmental accounting should be an elective you might want to take. How many tax classes are required for your degree? 1 tax class. Look at regulation. If you can see this, 15, 16, 19, 24, add that up, it's probably 55 to 60% of the regulation exam on the CPA exam is tax. So if you have an opportunity to take an advanced tax course, it's a course you probably want to take if you're serious about passing the exam. So CPA exam content specification outline. Everybody asked me about pass rates. A couple things you should know if you didn't. They have what are called testing windows. So you can see in January and February, you can sit for the exam. Nobody sits in March. You can take the exam in April and May. Nobody sits in June. So basically, nobody sits for the exam the last month of each quarter. And it's up for you as a candidate to decide, do you want to sit for 1, 2, 3, or all 4 parts in a testing window? The one thing you can't do is sit for the same part twice. So I can't sit for auditing in January, and if I fail it, I can't take it again in February. If I fail auditing in January, I have to at least wait till April and May to take it again. So as a candidate, you're going to decide how many parts you're going to take per testing window. And then for 2012, these are the pass rates on the exam. They go right about 50% when you start averaging everything out. About 50% of people pass it, and 50% of people fail the exam. And that's pretty scary when you consider that pretty much everybody taking this thing has an accounting degree. Yet half people who graduate with an accounting degree are failing the exam. And that scares a lot of people off. Well, it scares so many people from the exam that I can tell you the pass rates really aren't that bad. When you consider about 15% of people who sit for the exam for the first time don't do anything to prepare for it. They've heard all these things about how hard it is, how so many people fail. The first time they say, the first time they're just going to go in and see what the exam's like. Believe it or not, 15% of people the first time go in just to see what the exam's like the first time. Don't do that. I'll tell you what it's like. It's like sitting in front of a computer for 4 hours. That's what it's like. But so all of a sudden you take the 50% of those students out of the equation, and all the pass rates are in the low 60s. The students who actually put the time and effort to prepare for the exam, which is actually studying about anywhere from about 120 to about 180 hours per part, the students who actually put in 120 to 180 hours per part, they're passing at about a 67 to 70% pass rate. So the students that have put the time and effort are the ones that are passing the exam. And I'll guarantee everybody in here, with the curriculum you have here, the type of classes you're taking, if you put the time and effort in, you can pass the CPA exam. You may not pass all 4 parts the first time, so what? Keep at it, and eventually you'll get this thing done, and you'll get over that hurdle. A couple things nobody tells you when you take the exam. It's primarily a multiple choice exam. One question, 4 answers. Primarily multiple choice exam. In audit and financial accounting reporting, you have 90 multiple choice questions. In regulation and business environment concepts, you have 72 multiple choice questions. What somebody tells you is that not every question counts. You look at this. In auditing, 75 questions count, 15 are pre-test questions. They don't count. You're taking the exam, you don't know which questions count, which ones don't. And believe me, you're going to see questions out of left field. So imagine this, you graduate from here, you've put in your 150 hours you studied for auditing. You put in 150 hours of studying, and the first or second question you see, you have no idea what they're talking about. Not that you don't even know the answer, you have no idea what they're talking about. Recently, there was a question of the exam was, what is the anti-dilution percentage for common stock equivalents? You knew the Chicago Bears, you know the answer to the anti-dilution percentage for common stock equivalents. Otherwise, it was a minimum dilution rule. It was a question of the exam. A lot of students, that was the first or second question they saw. Well, I can tell you the answer is 3%. Nobody else is ever going to ask you that question again. And you can open up all your textbooks you've had here at school, accounting textbooks. How high would that stack? Accounting textbooks, not here. You know, the books you paid 20 bucks a piece for? Those books? And it wouldn't mention that, and that information wouldn't be in there. You can open up all CPA Excel's books, Becker's books, Kaplan's books, Rogers CPA Review books, BIS books, Wiley's books that are probably in your bookstore. You can open all those textbooks, and none of them would talk about that. But that was a question students saw in the CPA exam. And it freaked students out. And we got calls up to our company, I can't believe you didn't cover this. This was on the exam. It's like, it didn't matter because it was a pre-test question, it didn't count. It's the pre-test questions are the AICPA's ways of just surveying what students know and what they don't know. Maybe it's a question they want to possibly use on a future exam that's going to try it out and see how it goes. It's just their way of figuring out what they want to figure out you guys know. So when you take the exam, when you run across questions you have no idea what they're talking about, don't let it shake your confidence, make a guess, and move on. You ever heard of task-based simulations? That's part of the CPA exam now, task-based simulations. A lot of students are intimidated by what they call these task-based simulations because they don't know what they are. In a minute, I'll show you what a task-based simulation is. But basically, they have, in audit and FAR, you have 6 task-based simulations. Regulation, you have 5. One of those doesn't count. One of those questions would be a question out of left field. Who in here feels like they're a good writer? About 2 or 3 people. Most accountants don't feel like they're good writers. It's that, I can't remember, the right-left brain. One's you're creative, one's you're analytical. And most accountants are more analytical, so they don't feel they're very creative, and they don't feel like they're a good writer. Yet the AICPA says, we produce our CPAs, they're good writers, they're good communicators. Well, how important is writing to the AICPA? Well, so important that there's no writing in audit, there's no writing in FAR, there's no writing in regulation. In VEC, you have 3 what they call written communications. You can see that down low. And one of those doesn't count. So basically, you're writing 2 short answer essays. And there's thousands of people taking the exam. There's thousands of people writing these 3 short answer essays. And they don't have thousands of people grading these things. So all they're doing in 45 seconds is scanning your thing looking for keywords. Keywords is all they're looking for. So for the 90% of you who aren't good writers, don't worry about it. They're not looking for your great writing skills. They're looking for keywords. But one thing they may look for is if you're writing a short memo to the CEO of a company, that maybe you use a certain language when you use it, a certain salutation at the end, as opposed to you writing a memo to a coworker. And so things like that they may look for. But as far as your great writing skills, no, not a big deal. 55 jurisdictions. They call it the uniform CPA exam because the exam is the same in all jurisdictions, yet the requirements to sit for the uniform CPA exam are not very uniform. So in Texas, you need 150 hours to sit for the exam. You need 30, these are semester hours. You guys know semester hours here? Okay. 30 semester hours above the principal's level in accounting hours. You need 24 upper division general business courses and 3 ethics courses to sit for the exam in the state of Texas. I just do a few other states up there. Louisiana, you also need 150 hours. Oklahoma, you need 150 hours. So if you plan to live in Texas, work in Texas, you're from Texas, you need to sit for the exam as a candidate for the state of Texas, correct? No. There's actually loopholes out there that if you want to sit for the exam and you don't meet Texas requirements, you can actually sit as a candidate from Delaware or Colorado or Alaska or the other states that don't have nearly stringent requirements. You're still going to sit for the CPA exam in Texas. You just sit as a Delaware candidate. You're still going to go over to McAllen or wherever the local Prometrics testing center is. You're still going to sit just like everybody else does, except for you sit as a Delaware candidate. You pass the exam. Well, you can be a CPA in Delaware. Hey, you're looking for a job. You're a CPA. You tell people you're a CPA. Now, you want to be a CPA in Texas eventually? Well, eventually, when you meet Texas's requirements, you go back to school and get your 5th year, whatever you need to do. You go back and you take a couple more classes to get to the 30 accounting semester hours, whatever you need to do. Now that you've met Texas requirements, now you apply to the state of Texas, and you're a CPA in Texas. You only have to pass the exam once. So just because you don't meet Texas requirements, if you want to sit for the exam with an undergraduate accounting major, you can do that. Does that make sense? Okay. Trivia questions. You get $50 gift certificate to, I'll go 40, yeah, $50 gift certificate to your favorite restaurant here in town. 55 jurisdictions offer the CPA certification. The 50 United States, DC, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. That's 54. What's the 55th jurisdiction? Anybody?
Dominican Republic?
No.
Costa Rica?
No, haven't heard it. No. Have you ever heard of the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands? It's actually a U.S. province. Who knew? What do they teach us? The Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. I had to do a talk on all the different jurisdictions and just the different crazy requirements for each of them. And when I found out about the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, it's 13 islands in the Pacific. Only 7 of them were actually inhabited. And it has the greatest proportion of women to men in any place on the globe. More women to men in the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands than any place in the world. So if you're a guy who can't get a job and can't get a girlfriend, Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands.
Now where is this located?
What's that? Anyway, the CPA exam, this is pretty common for every state's a little bit different. The prices are about the same, give or take $100 here or there. But in Texas, it's going to cost you $50 to send in your application to see if you meet the Texas requirements. And then you have to pay either $195 or $176, depending what part you're taking. If you take auditing and you fail it, you have to repeat it. You got to pay the $195 again. So, if you get through this thing and only fail a part or two the first time, you're looking at about $1,100, $1,200 that you have to invest to actually take the exam. And it's up to you. I mean, really, to get over that bar we talked about, that hurdle, it's definitely going to be worth it to your career to spend $1,200 to get through the exam, or to actually register to take the exam. So just so you know, it's not free. And so that's why I laugh when there are students out there who take the exam the first time just to see what the exam's like. It's crazy, but people do that. A couple of small things, if you didn't know it. 75 is a passing grade, 74 is a failing grade. It's not necessarily a straight percentage. There's questions that get thrown out on occasion. And there was a question recently on Schedule F. You guys know what Schedule F is? Farming, very good. Question on Schedule F had to do with farming. And what they found is students in Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Kansas did pretty well because those are farming states and the universities teach the Schedule F. Students in San Francisco and Boston didn't do very well on that question because there's not a lot of farming going on outside of San Francisco and Boston. And so the question was thrown out because it was a regionally unfair question. So from time to time, questions get thrown out. The perfect score on the CPA exam, some people might say it's 100. Some people might want to say it's 99. The perfect score on the CPA exam is 75 because it means you didn't study too much. So if you pass the exam with a 75 and this guy down here got a 92, you're the smart one because you did what was taking to get it. So if you pass with 75, be happy. I talk to students sometimes who are disappointed they only got a 75 on the exam. It's like, no, that's perfect. So it's really a pass-fail exam in that regard. It really doesn't matter what your score is. Nobody in a job interview or when you're working will really ask you what was your score on the exam unless it's one of those people that got the 97 on it. They might ask you, but nobody cares. The two important things you need to know, you can pass one section at a time. Remember, it's 4 individual exams. You take them individually, pass one at a time. This is the important one. You have to pass all 4 parts within 18 months. If you don't pass all 4 parts within 18 months, whatever part you pass first, you have to take that one again. So I've been sticking on audit. So if I pass auditing on January 15th, I now have 18 months to pass the other 3 sections. If I don't pass the other 3 in 18 months, I have to take auditing over again. You don't want to do that. So if you pass 2 parts, it's not the time to go to Europe to go find yourself for 3 months. Once you start the process, finish the process. Question I get asked all the time. What part should you take first? Any ideas? Whatever you hate. If you hate tax, take regulation first. If you hate governmental accounting, take that section first. Because you want to get the worst one out of the way. And because you get the worst one out of the way, that 18-month clock is all of a sudden not so bad. The students who put the worst one off to the end, well, maybe it took you 9 months to pass the first 3 parts because you had to repeat a couple. And remember, you can only take them every 3 months. It takes you 9 months to pass the first 3 parts, the first 3 sections. All of a sudden, you fail the one you hate. And maybe you fail the one that you hate a second time. Now that clock's ticking. Your clock doesn't start until you pass the first section, so take the one you hate first. And once you get that one out of the way, the rest of the exam becomes much easier. So take that one first. How to prepare for it? There's a lot of ways to prepare for it. I've given you some information on the program we have here. If anybody tells you there's only one way to pass the CPA exam, they're full of crap. You put the time and effort in, whether you use CPA Excel, whether you use Becker, whether you use Roger, whether you use BISC, whether you use Kaplan, whatever you determine that you want to use, put the time and effort in and you can pass the exam. I'll show you a little bit about how the program we have here is set up. And first I'll show you how the program works, but if you go to the back page, the price of the student basically got is $1,000, which includes everything. And for those who haven't looked into this whole process of CPA review, you guys have probably heard of the Becker program. The program I work for, it's based on a live course model. You go to class, once or twice a week for 3 hours. It's a good program. But just so you get an idea, it costs you $3,200 to go through that program. So, you're paying $1,000, $1,200 to take the exam. There's a financial investment involved. So look at all your options. Don't just look at Becker. Don't just look at CPA Excel. If you're somebody that can just get a set of books and some sample questions, and that's enough for you to get through the exam, you can go to probably your bookstore here. There's probably a set of books you can probably get for $400 to study for the exam. It's kind of up to you in how you learn. Everybody, you really know yourself. So I'll show you how that program works. But look at the different options out there. All right. Basically, I'll just give you a quick whirlwind of how this works. I'm just going to grab auditing. I don't know why I'm over auditing today, but and when you do that, and everything I'm doing is online, and so I'm at the mercy of however the speed of the internet is here. This program also works offline. If you're at grandma's house and for whatever reason grandma hasn't gotten into the wireless internet yet, you can work the program offline. If you're somebody that works on a tablet, an iPad, you can do the whole program on an iPad. If you have one of these smartphones, you can do your questions and flashcards on a smartphone, and everything will sync up. So you can do this in a variety of different ways. But basically, I hit auditing. It broke down to all the major topics in auditing. I'm just going to grab planning activities. Here's all the subcategories. I'm just going to grab materiality. And basically, how this program is a little different is the group of us that left the Becker and went to CPA Excel, we basically wanted to figure out a program that could get students through the exam. And one of the things we looked at is memory retention. The optimal study time due to your memory retention is somewhere between about 25 to 55 minutes. That's your optimal study time. And if you want to test it, go to the library tonight and go study hard for 3.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever time frame. If you go to the library tonight and study for 3 hours, what you're going to find is the first 20 minutes of what you study, you remember that pretty well. The last 15 to 20 minutes of what you study, you remember that pretty well. And everything in between is not going to be near as clear. So the optimal study time is 25 to 55 minutes. So the way we designed the program is we do things by topic, and it's kind of low here. Estimated average study time of this topic, 48 minutes and 22 seconds. And that's not based on some professor deciding how long it should take you. It's based on students who've gone through our program, passed auditing. It took them an average of 48 minutes and 22 seconds to get through this material. Small bite-sized pieces we call lecture, 4 minutes and 18 seconds. I think we all know that if that was a 62-minute lecture, the chance of you actually clicking on it and being engaged for 62 minutes is not going to happen. You know, if somebody sends me a YouTube video and says, this is really cool, if it's more than 30 seconds, I'm not watching it. But 4 minutes and 18 seconds, I think we can all probably try to stay focused for 4 minutes and 18 seconds. So while that lecture's going on, I can do a variety of things. I can actually open up the textbook, small bite-sized pieces. Actually a page, maybe a page and a half of text you're going through in one class session. Everybody gets hard copy books as well, but the actual books are online. You can print out anything you want. So if you just want to print out this page and a half, you can do that, but you do the physical textbooks. All the professors are university faculty members. We don't hire local practitioners. There might be a guy from McGladdery in Brownsville that knows tax, and he might be really good at teaching tax, but he's not a teacher. And we want you asking questions to a teacher. I'm not a teacher. I can answer accounting questions. You can ask me something on evidential matter, and I can tell you a little bit about it, but I'm not a teacher. I'm not really good at teaching you the concept. We only work with university faculty members. Don Chidrick's the Deloitte Professor of Accounting from Northern Illinois. He teaches a lot of the auditing. While he's teaching, if you want to, you can actually look at the PowerPoint slides. And you see there's 6 PowerPoint slides, small bite-sized pieces. And actually it's not 6 because the first one's a title one and the last one's a review question. So really 4 PowerPoint slides, small bite-sized pieces. You're going to get through this material in 40 minutes. So you've watched that 4-minute lecture, you've looked at the page and a half of textbook, maybe you've looked at the PowerPoint slides. The key to pass exam is understand the concept and then working past exam questions. 8 past exam questions. You can do it in a variety of ways. One is called study mode. And in study mode, you get immediate feedback on why the question is correct or incorrect. I don't remember how to try to make this not so big on the screen. Anyway, you get immediate feedback on why the question is correct or incorrect. Or I can do these questions in what's called exam mode. And when I hit exam mode, now what it's done is this is exactly what you're, oops, hit the wrong one there, sorry, exam mode. This is exactly what you're going to see when you go to the Prometrics Testing Center and take the exam. Exact screen layouts. It's not a pretty screen because the people at the AICPA didn't hire marketing people to create the exam. It's simple black and white for the most part with your blue links you can use. This is exactly how it works on the exam from your directions. You guys can see down low here, it lists your test list of questions called the test list of questions, which is usually either 30 or 24 questions on the exam. Here we only have 8 because we're doing this with small bite-sized pieces. So read the directions. This is exactly how it works on the exam, your 8 questions. If you notice there's no A, B, C, or D on the exam anymore. They actually removed that about 1.5 years ago because on the exam I think the answer D was like the answer 4 times in a row. And students wouldn't pick D 4 times in a row because they thought there's no way that the people would have D answer 4 times in a row. So they got rid of that. So they did basically just You guys checking my work here? And that's $10,000. All right, exit. All right, exit. Just so you know, when you're taking the normal exam, once you can go back and review questions as many times as you want to. When you're actually taking the exam, once you exit, you can't go back and review them anymore. So keep that in mind when you're taking the exam. For guessing, I didn't do too bad. 3 correct, 5 incorrect. I can actually open that up and print out the ones I missed if I want to. I can retake the ones I missed if I want to. I can sit and look at the details. It will say, okay, Jeff, you picked C. This is why C is wrong. B is the correct answer. This is why B is correct. So that's how the multiple choice questions work. We talked about task-based simulations. Let me show you how those work on the exam. When you were in elementary school, you probably had a test in which you had a group of question answers on the left and a group of answers on the right. You had to basically draw an arrow to them. That's all this type of task-based simulation is. It's basically a matching type. Just a big multiple choice question. I think this is inherent risk. This is detention risk, audit program, control risk, and this is a misappropriation of assets. That's an engagement letter. All right, exit. That's one type of task-based simulation. Basically, it's a big multiple-choice question, 20% right. There's a second type of task-based simulation, and whether you're using CPA Excel or somebody else when you're preparing for the exam, you need to practice these task-based simulations because look at this one. This is exactly how it works on the exam. It's a research question. You got to figure out where the calculator is. You need a spreadsheet. You have to open the spreadsheet. It's a research question, so here you're going to have to split it one way or the other, so I'm going to split it. And And I read the question down here, and I think this has to read, okay, this has to do with evidential matter. So I'm going to search evidential matter. Oops. Fingers are too fat for the keyboard. Matter. All right, search evidential matter. I read the question, okay, I think this has to do with consideration of fraud, audit 316. I click consideration of fraud. I start reading down to consideration of fraud. And okay, it talks about here 05, so I get the answer audit 316.05. Exit. I'm pretty sure I didn't get that one right. No, didn't get that one right. And so that's basically how task-based simulations work. Research questions, big multiple choice type questions. That's what task-based simulations are. Last thing I'll show you here, well, actually, there's flashcards. If you're a flashcard person, you can print out flashcards if you want to do flashcards. About 20% of students, for whatever reason, like flashcards. The rest of them don't. I don't know why that is, but that's what we find. And then you have the ability to ask a question. So once again, we're still in materiality here. We're small bite-sized pieces. One topic. I can look at another student's question if I want to. Read his question. All people answering the question, let's see, they're university faculty members. Professor Latham's from Washington State University. Everybody's a university faculty member. If I want, I can actually write my own question if I choose to. So that's basically how the program works from a topic level. The last thing is that everybody here is going to be different. Some of you are going to sit for the exam right after graduation. Some of you might wait till August to start preparing. Some of you might take 2 or 3 parts per testing window. Some of you might not be in a hurry, just want to take 1 part per testing window. You're all different. So we have what's called an exam plan that basically you make your own schedule. So I'm going to graduate, let's say you're going to graduate here May 10th, and you want to start studying for the exam on July 3rd. Well, with that schedule, you have to study 13 hours per week. Well, maybe you're working full-time and have 2 kids at home and you can't put in 13 hours per week, so we just know I'm going to schedule the exam. I'm going to wait to take it on July 28th. That's when I'm going to schedule my exam with the Prometrics Testing Center. Well, that's 9 hours per week. Find a schedule that you know is going to work for you. All right, that's going to work for me. Next, I'm going to exit and save that. Hopefully, it'll save quickly here. And basically what it's done is it's put together your checklist. For those of you who are list makers, it put together your list of things to do, of what you need to do between graduation on May 10th and when you sit the exam on July 28th. This is your checklist of things you have to do. So if you get down here on June 7th and 9th and you've got everything checked off, you're on your way to pass the exam. If you only have half these topics checked off, you've only done half of them, there's no way you're going to pass this exam at the end of July. So it's your checklist. It's up to you. If you're behind and you know you have to contact them, reschedule your time until a later time. But if it's July 7th, 8th, and 9th, you know that's the time you have to do audit sampling. Basically, just click on it, brings up audit sampling. Introduction audit sampling right there. And it's going to give you your assignment, how many hours it's going to take you to do this, which is probably going to be an assignment that is going to take you roughly 44 minutes. It should take you roughly 44 minutes to get through this material. 13-minute lecture, about 18 questions to do, 1 task-based simulation. The whole thing should take you about 45 minutes to do. So, in a whirlwind, that's how CPA Excel works. It works a little different than other programs, but as I mentioned, there's a lot of programs out there. Do something, take the exam, take some sort of review program, and get it out of the way because you got to figure out a way to get over that hurdle. With that, there's a lot of the bells and whistles we don't need to get into right now, but if you have any questions, I can answer them now, or I'll stick around for a little while later. If you fill out a card, you want to pass it to the side, I'm happy to do a drawing here for a free course. Anybody have any questions right now about the exam or the program? Yeah.
You were explaining this scheduling as far as setting up your review for how at your own pace you can study. Is there any way that you can also fit that to your testing plan? Like if you plan on taking the test separate parts, that you study for it using CPA Excel and then sit for an exam and then continue studying for it and then sitting for the exam.
Like all 4 sections you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you do it, I can, I think this is what you're asking. If not, my wife is not a very good listener too, so imagine that. So basically, if you wanted to do that, for instance, you're taking more than one, you could actually set them up, individually, put the different dates you want to take individually, and it'll give you times for each individual part, the number of hours you want to put in. And so there are students who take 3 or 4 parts per testing window. Personally, I would never do that unless there's some reason you need to get the exam out of the way as fast as possible. You don't have to take all 4 parts at the same time, so I would just take 1 or 2 per testing window.
Is there like a timed amount of like you have the access to the program for only so long?
Yeah, excellent question. And you should look at that when you look at other programs because some programs expire after a certain amount of time. With this program, once you pay for it, it's yours until you eventually pass the exam. That takes you 6 years, and that's not a good promotion of how the program works to say it takes 6 years. But if it takes you 6 years, you have the program for 6 years, everything is automatically updated, so you don't have to pay for an update fee. Look into that when you're shopping around about a different course you take because some programs will charge you to repeat a section. So if you need updated textbooks for some reason, companies will charge you for updated books, so look into those type of things. Good question. Yeah.
So how long will you honor the UTV TSC student credit?
And that price, if you're a student alumni, it's yours. So if you want to wait 20 years, well, 20 years if I'm still around. But yeah, as long as the program's in place, that price is good. It's nothing you have to sign up by today or tomorrow or anything like that. So it's good for alumni too. So if you know nobody who's graduated, who's thinking about the exam, let them know. Yeah.
As far as the textbooks, I noticed you said the online gets updated. What about physical copies?
The physical textbooks will get updated about once a year. And it really depends on the changes to the exam. But if you paid for the program now and you need updated textbooks a year and a half from now, we'll supply updated textbooks. There's no charge for that.
Oh, no charge.
The exam doesn't normally change much from year to year. For instance, there might be a new FASB that comes in that's now eligible to be tested, and so the textbooks will get updated for that. There was international standards were now eligible to be tested, so there's some more information that got recently put in the textbooks for that. But they don't really change that much from year to year. The exam doesn't really change that much from year to year. So we don't get a lot of requests for that, but that's something you can get if you need it.
You talking about FASB? IFRS over there, right? International.
Yep.
So how much of a percentage is that now?
There was a big announcement that IFRS was now tested on the CPA exam, and there was a review company out there that made a big deal about it. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, warning is coming because they wanted people to take their program before IFRS was eligible. In reality, you might get 2 questions on the exam. It's not a big deal.
It's not worth going out there and trying to take like an international course specifically.
No, I personally, I don't think right now, unless they really expand how much is tested, I don't think you need to take any special class on it. I think any decent review program is going to cover what you need to know. I say out of whether 90, 90, 72, 72, what's that, 180 plus another 140, it's too much math for me, 460? 90, 90, 180, 72, and 72. Somebody do the math for me here. 140. 180, 144 would be 3, yeah, so out of 325 multiple choice questions, you might see 2. So not a big deal. Anything else? Yeah.
For the task-based simulations, do you have to get all of them right in order for it to count as correct?
No, you get a percentage. So for instance, like in a research question, yes. If it's you're looking for, I shouldn't say it's not entirely. So I did that research question, was audit 316.04. If I would put audit 316.07, been in the right area, I would get a partial credit for it. On that other task-based simulation, it was matching. I think there were 5 or 6 options. If I get 60% of them right, I would get 60% of that task-based simulation right. Okay. Anything else?